What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and it's the most wonderful time of the year. Kids are back in school, which is awesome. I've been looking forward to it for the past 3 months, and they're back in school, and it's fantastic. Right now, I have the entire house to myself. I can do whatever I want. I can play video games. I can do a bit of a naked cartwheel if I so please. The castle is mine, and mine alone, which is fantastic. Hopefully, I'll be able to be even more productive. But all 3 kids are in school to some capacity. The baby's only in preschool, but whatever. It's also my oldest birthday today, so I'm recording this. I think it's important to say I'm recording this on Tuesday. Oh, so actually my kid's birthday's tomorrow. I don't know why I thought it was Tuesday. Doesn't matter. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so I don't have any post thoughts for MMC's Vortex in terms of house cleaning. But I can tell you this, the more I've been living with this figure, the more I've been enjoying it. I'm not sure if it's once again the buyer's remorse. I'm not sure what it is, but this figure is growing on me. And I thought it was pretty good to begin with, but I keep picking it up and messing with it. There is a fun factor to this action figure wise that's pretty impressive. I'm not sure what the feedback was on the video, but that is how I feel. Now, feedback wise for the other videos, let's get the Gigapower thing right out of the way. Apparently there's an ab crunch with a button release on the back, so he has an ab crunch, and I just want to let you know how this would change my final thoughts from the review. So let's take a look. I have some articulation issues with this. Limited ankle articulation, limited head and robot mode articulation, which could have been easily fixed. In short, it wouldn't change it at all. I still feel like the articulation is fantastic, with the exception of the head being able to look down and the ankles being able to rock. Now, if there was a button that fixed one of those things, it would change my review. Otherwise, it's just a mistake on my part, and I apologize. These things happen. It's easy to overlook things. Like, for instance, the other 49 comments before yours that point out the ab crunch. But whatever. It's there. It doesn't make it any better or worse for me. My bad. Moving on. Let's talk about last week's episode. It's so interesting, right, that I posed the question in regard to the effects on the environment. You know, I just said, look, what is this doing? What is the cost-benefit analysis of this, right? And how divided people instantly become and how extreme their opinions become in regards to what I'm saying when I'm just raising the question. So weird time that we live in when it comes to anything that's remotely dangerous in terms of a conversation. If it's not super safe and super surface, everybody gets all upset and worked up. So, good grief. I still think it's a question worth asking. A lot of people brought up the idea of, well, what about being able to look for defects and pains on the figures? Dude, I think it's a great idea. I agree. That's a problem. Hopefully, they come up with some sort of corn extract that, I don't know, dude. It's beyond me. I'm all about saving the environment. Don't twist my words. I'm just asking, at the end of the day, what is the cost benefit of it? That's it. But people are very, very, very sensitive and worked up. That's fine. Just remember, the only way to really have a healthy exchange of ideas is to have healthy discourse about it. Not to get all upset and in your feelings and in your political pocket as to what you think is right. And it goes for me as well. Has to be able to have that exchange of ideas and hopefully be able to learn and grow. And in many ways, dangerous conversations are the only ones that I think are really worth having. But that's neither here nor there. Everybody loved the Mandalorian video, and that's awesome. I was happy to do it. I'm actually super proud of it myself, so I'm glad that it was well received. And then I think I did the 9 one this past week. I'm not sure. See, I have a lot of 9 spoilers that I'm thinking about putting out there, but I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. So time will tell in less than 3, they say. Yes, Macbeth. What do I know about it? Let's move on to today. And we'll start with a Unicron update from our friend Brian Brink, part of the End of the Realm and Breaking the Mold, who has been working on these charts. And obviously this has been extended. We're going to be talking about that here shortly, but we're not going to be talking about it right now. We're going to start slow and end big, so to speak. So this was updated as of 9/2. So yesterday for me, a couple days ago for you. And we had that huge spike, which I think personally is the online distributors submitting their numbers. And now it's beginning to level out. As of right now, it is ahead of its own trajectory, but it looks like it's going below the line again. I'm not sure if they'll extend it. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I would imagine that we'll get another spike because online retailers will submit more numbers now that it has been extended, but we'll get back to that here in a minute. So let's start with the other bit of news. And that is that we got this text exchange recently in regards to Hasbro cracking down on third parties. Now I'm going to show a picture of it, and let me go ahead and get this right out of the way. I don't know what is being said here. I do not know what these words mean, and obviously some of them have been blurred out. But I think most people originally saw this from the Trans Fans page, who translates it loosely as Wei Zhang and Black Mamba have been sued by Hashtag. Now both have stock clearance. Next they will take action to third party like Unique Toys and Toy World. Any G1 homage design from 3P and KO will be sued. Now, I sent this over to my buddy Joe KW, who speaks and reads the language, and he pretty much confirms that that's what it says. But I've also seen Ben from Ben's Collectibles chime in, and he talks with these companies fairly often, I get the impression anyway, and he said he spoke with both companies and they say it's not true. Apparently the guy who made the post is also known as a bit of a pot stirrer in some regard. I don't know any of these gentlemen, but that's his reputation precedes him. And it may all be bull, 100% bull. That's the way it's seeming anyway. But I know people got worked up and panicking and they're going, it's over, it's over. And look, it is over. I got news for you. It's just dying a slow death, not an immediate death, which is what this is suggesting. This is suggesting an immediate death, and that's not what's happening, so it seems. What's happening is a very slow death on life support. That's what we're seeing in the real time. Nobody, unfortunately, wants to talk about that as much. They rather talk about this because this is drama, right? This is dramatic. But let me go on record and say I do not believe this to be true because of what Ben has put into the ether, because of, I feel like we would hear a little bit more about it. I feel like it would make waves. Like there are business magazines and trades that would carry this sort of information. I feel like that we would see on the surface somewhere, and I'm not seeing it. But let's say it is, just for the sake of conversation. Is it believable? Yeah, I don't know if lawsuit is what I would expect, but I mean those are two KO companies, and if they've KO'd a Hasbro product and Hasbro can prove it, I mean we have seen stuff like this happen before. We saw it with Lego and Lepin, but a lot of times what happens is you crush one and then another one pops up, right? That's just the kind of the way of the business. But I mean, legal recourse is definitely a possibility here. It's just whether or not they're actually doing it. I don't get the impression that they're actually doing it, but maybe. And attacking a KO versus attacking a third party, the way to go about that, it's two very different things. I know many people suggest that it's not, but it is. And when you're going after something that's an exact replica and a copy and a counterfeit, it's a lot easier to do than if you're going after something that's, say, inspired by a work. You have to prove that. It's just two separate things. You're talking about protected works that are proven as a counterfeit versus intellectual property inspiration, which, I mean, we all know that OP Leader or, you know, Light of Freedom is Optimus Prime, but you have to prove it. It's just more complicated. Whereas with a KO, you can say, look, part for part, side by side, look, it's the exact same. It's not that situation over here. It's just a more complicated, a more convoluted situation. It's more tricky to prove. So while I can see them going after the KOs and having luck with that, going after third party is going to be trickier. Now, one thing that circulated was there was some image of an Optimus Prime, a Toy World Optimus Prime that actually said Optimus Prime on it. That's infringement, right? Like that's cut and dry, black and white, night and day copy. Like that's putting them in harm's way. But the rest of this stuff, it's not impossible to prove, but it's just trickier. It's more gray area that they have to prove to a court is infringing on their IP. Now, some of this is going to be a lot easier to do than others, I would imagine. Like if you look at the Magic Square or the TE Primes, they both kind of definitely look like Optimus Prime. But now take like TFC's Defensor. You know, it's not as cut and dry, right? Because it's not as kind of line for line, panel for panel replica of Hasbro's Defensor. It's stylized. Take any of the Warbitron stuff or Generation Toy stuff or any of that. Like when you go into these super stylized approaches, it's harder to prove that it actually is the original thing that somebody would be trying to prove in court. It's just more complicated. So just because they're going after one doesn't mean that they'll have success with the other. And I say all that to say this, I don't think they're going after anybody. If we look at third party now versus third party 3 years ago, there's far less companies. Like this thing is going a certain way anyway. I don't think that Hasbro needs to really take any kind of action at this point. So that's done. Let's move into this Unicron thing. So the Unicron has been extended. So now we got 33 more days, which means I got to cover this for more weeks. It's got 5,649 backers and it needs 8,000. Underneath it says in production completely funded, which I'm not sure why. And that does set off my spider sense a bit, but Hasbro made a comment in regards to it where they basically said, you spoke and we listened. Transformer fans, it's not over for the Lord of Chaos quite yet. You've told us that you need more time, so we're officially extending the backer deadline to Sunday, October 6th, 2019. Now, what do I think about this? Well, I think that they know that they're close and that it has a fighting chance, and they'd rather produce it than not produce it. I don't think that they're listening to the fans. I don't think that they are pulling any real shady move either. I think that the company wants to produce the product. They think that there's a chance that they can produce the product if we do extend the time, and therefore they're extending the time in the hopes of being able to produce the product. I really think it's that cut and dry. I don't think that it's any fan service. I also don't think that it's any shady, we've already got it in production, we're going to make sure that it happens type of thing. I personally do not.
I think if they were in the practice of just making shady moves in spite of what they were saying on the crowdfunding, we would have got this Cookie Monster, but the Cookie Monster was indeed canceled.
Obviously, they would rather produce it than not. But they're not going to throw away the money on producing it if they don't have the money set away to make it produced. There's people that are saying that they're probably going to release it anyway and all this stuff. Like, I'm telling you, like, I don't see that being the case. And if it is the case, they violate the terms and conditions of this thing that they'll never be able to recover from. Hasbro as a corporation doesn't care. The people that made this definitely want to see it produced because they put their blood, sweat, and tears into creating this thing. They want to see it come to life and light. So if they can extend it to try to get the money, then I mean, I guess so. It makes this not a good look. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not doing much for the outlook of it because it's like, man, you had to extend it. You couldn't do it in this set amount of time. I was talking to somebody recently and they were like, well, it's just good marketing. And I was like, no, that's not true. It's bad marketing. If they were able to market it properly, they wouldn't have had to extend it. That's what that means. The reason that they have to extend it is because it didn't do well enough. They didn't do what they thought it would do. But I don't think that it's any super conspiracy thing on Hasbro's part, that they've already got it in production and they just need the signs to show green lights in order to make it, you know, I don't think it's any of that. I just think that they want to do it. They've gotten permission to extend it. They're extending it because they think that it's close. And it is. It wasn't close enough to get it right the first time though, but it might be close enough to get it the second night. But now we're looking at that line is going right across that red mark in the chart that we looked at earlier. So I don't know how it's gonna go, man. I wish it the best because I like what they're doing, but I don't know. But it is facing a little bit of competition now, right? This Zeta Unicron, we get the kind of the full reveal, both alt mode and robot mode. And I think it looks fantastic. Do I think it looks better than the Hasbro one? Yes, I absolutely do. Am I going to get it? No, I'm absolutely not. It's 18 inches from what I can tell. And look, it's just not enough. For my collection, it would look silly because it's going to be juxtaposed next to combiners that are bigger than it, next to city bots that are bigger than it. I need this Unicron to be kind of the largest thing in order to really signify the dimensions of that character. Now, obviously, it's never going to be properly in scale, right? However, just if I have it and it's the biggest thing within that collection, you can look at it and be like, well, this is the biggest thing, and that somehow is good enough for me. I said this a bit earlier when we were talking about Masterpiece City Bots in a previous video, that I don't need it to be in scale, I just need it to be bigger than the combiners. Like, I like the combiners to look a certain way next to the regular bots. I just need the City Bots to be a little bit bigger than the combiners, and I need a Unicron to be a little bit bigger than that, and that's what the Hasbro one is, so that's what I'm going with. Even though I don't think it looks as good as Zeta, it just fits better. But I think the Zeta one looks great. I wouldn't fault anybody for getting it. It looks fantastic. And Zeta makes good stuff, in my opinion, so I don't have any worries about it. It's just not what I'm going with personally. I'd love to get a chance to review it though. That being said, that should do it for today. We had 2 Transformer reviews this week. It's been a while since we've had that. That's nice. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.